Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to the Sompon Global TV. My name is Vera Sompon, and I'm your host. We're going to be having a conversation today on racism and, of course, its effect on business growth. Remember, today is the 21st of 3rd, 2021, and many years ago, 55 years ago, in South Africa, on this day, 69 people lost their lives because of police brutality as a result of fighting against or demonstrating against racism. And that was 1960. And then in 1966, the United Nations came up with a decree that on the 21st of March, 21st of March, every year will be recognized as a day to fight against racism. Then a very important change took place again, and we now celebrated racism not just the one day but 1 week. The question is racism just for 1 day, for 1 week, or a daily affair? How does racism really affect us, really affect businesses, and how can we improve the situation at the moment? Is there a way to really combat against racism? This and more are the conversation that I'm going to be having with my colleague, Mr. Florian. Florian, you're welcome to our conversation today. The world is celebrating or again fighting against racism. And this week, all over the world, even in Germany and in different parts of the world, different parts in Germany, they have been working and talking. Taking actions against racism, like a symbol, like a signal to say no to racism. And we also know about Nelson Mandela, who was a fighter also against apartheid, against racism. And in many of his talk, he said that hate could be learned. And so if we can learn hate, then we can also unlearn hate, and we can learn to love. Today, we're having the discussion on how racism can affect businesses, and especially businesses of people owned by people of color. You're welcome to this platform today, Florian. Tell us more about who you are and what you think about racism and businesses.
Well, Vera, thank you very much, my sister. It's always good to be on your show. My name is Florian Dzukou. I am an entrepreneur. I am an engineer. And yes, I love product management. I love speaking to people, helping people out. And yes, happy to be here.
Thank you very much. We're going to go straight away to the conversation. Remember, in our conversation yesterday, when we were preparing this talk and we were having the exchange, we said that racism is a system. And if that is a system, Florian, how can this system be a hindrance to business growth?
Yes, before we talk about racism, we have to go back from where it started. It's really difficult to go through this topic without even understand what racism actually is, because we won't mix racism to discrimination and vice versa. So to go back to racism embodied two words. I would say, from my own perspective, I would say racism is structural and systematic, because this comes from a structure where they had to classify races, isn't it? So with the black, so-called black and brown races on the bottom, on the ladder, and the white races just on the top, and in between we got other races. So just from there, we see that racism is about power and control. This is number one in terms of structural aspect. Secondly, it's a system. They had to introduce it into the society, in institution. We can talk about Jim Crow, for instance. So to maintain a category of person behind, left behind, control, making sure the white races, so-called white races, because actually I used to talk to my children and they said to me, Daddy, there's no white person, because yes, actually, you won't show me somebody like this, isn't it? Nobody is like this.
Mhm.
No, nobody is
Mhm.
white, and nobody
Mhm.
is really black, actually. So those are invention, human invention, just to control. And this is all about power. This is all about money. This is all about just domination. Yes. Now, in terms of business, you understand that when you talk about power, you talk about money, and you talk about control and domination. This is normal. That the racism will have a long-term influence on people of the bottom of the letter, so brown and black people there.
Mhm.
Mm.
Thank you so much. Amazing the way you said before at the beginning. You said that um, we have to have a differentiation between racism and, of course, and discrimination, and it's so traumatizing, I would say, to always have a conversation with some people of color, and they really believe that other people of color can be racist towards other people of color. And I'm always like, they could be discriminating, but not racist. Can you make a sharp difference between racism? You've already explained that. But what is the difference between racism and discrimination?
Well, this is a very, very good question. As for this is a lot of, we tend to mix up racism and discrimination, because all look like the same things, but those are not the same things. Most of the time, you see racism has been structured and made to control so-called inferior races. So those are most of white people with power, setting a system long term to control all the people of other races. This is the core understanding of racism. The goal of what this system was put in place. Now, most of sometime when a black when a somebody of color or somebody so-called black people react, they call that defense racism. So, but this is just a reaction against a system that has been there to oppress them for hundreds of years, and sometimes this can translate into a kind of discrimination. But this is actually not racism. This is a reaction of defense, I would say. Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. I think that it would be so important for us to make people understand that discrimination, we can see that in areas like the gender, age. So such things one can say, okay, we're discriminated upon because of our age, our gender, maybe our class and all that. But when it has to do with racism, like you said, it is a construction of a structure, of a system, political systems, laws that has been put in place by the white people. And of course, it is time to mention the fact that it has been put in place many years ago by the white people. White people, we talk about the European, the Americans, and we do not want to forget the history that makes us understand that there was a conference that was well held and organized to be able to systematically destroy a particular group of people. And of course, racism is not only against the African people, we have racism against the Muslim people, we have racism as well against the Jewish people. We should not forget that. And this is also
Yeah.
the different kinds of racism. And you see in that all, there is a system that has been placed by a particular group of people to destabilize another group of people. I would like to go into the conversation of Martin Luther King, who said that he had a dream and he wanted that years back, some years will come that everyone will be able to simple things like he said, go to the same schools with the children, eat in
Mhm.
the same restaurants, just do the same things together with the people. And that was his dream. Do you think, looking at you as an entrepreneur, do you think that it has come to reality?
Well, not at all. Martin Luther King used to say, "Judge somebody with the content of his character instead of
Mm,
how he look like." But remember this, as you said, racism is about education first. And the thing is, we are 2021. It's really, really difficult to see Jim Crow apply so openly, in open space. But still, you have, I would say this, the subconscious racism that is embodied, that is embedded in system, in education, and we need to start educating people. We need to start that start at homes, because most of racism, most of the things, those are things that are deeply embedded in education and
mm,
need to be addressed the way it is. If you grew up in a family where they told you that, for instance, a black man is somehow inferior or something, or a color people, or like a red, yellow color, whatever, all those color. Don't forget, we need to go back even in the language of racism, because all this language has been invented to promote racism. White race, yellow race, red race. Those are things really embedded in the society, in our subconscious, to promote that. I think we need to go back and deconstruct even the way we call it.
mhm,
Even because calling somebody black or calling somebody yellow or red, this is,
mhm,
for me, is calling somebody names,
mhm,
actually, because nobody is red, nobody is yellow, actually. And this is where
mhm.
we should go. I remember when I came, I arrived in Germany 2002. I was in a bus in Flensburg, and I read in the bus, keine Chancen für Schwarzfahrer. This is German, but in this language alone, you can understand that even in the language, the color has been has been applied to describe something what is
Has
good
been
as black,
demonized.
something what is
Mhm,
good as white, and something
mhm,
what is bad as black. And this
mhm,
alone is not true. This is not
mhm.
the total truth. So even in the language, racism has been portrayed, has been embedded consciously or non-consciously. I don't know, but those are those are those are those are steps that promote racism, in my perspective, and need to be addressed in
We're
the broader
talking.
way to say.
Mhm.
Yes.
You're talking about very important things here, is, racism in the language, and you also spoke about the education. I had a very, interesting meeting before now, and there was a young man, one of our young, I call them our successors. Um, that's going to be an amazing young politician. I'm very sure about that. And he of course used to also support us with the technical support. His name is Ellis Abeke, and I was so impressed by this young man who is 10 years of age, and he was explaining before about 30 people, and these 30 people were all people, influential white people too. And he said, we have been talking about racism. He said, I was 4 years old when I went to dance against hip hop against racism. And
Mhm.
today I'm now 10 years, getting 11 years, and we are still talking about racism. It's like, though, nothing is changing. I have the impression things have worsened. This is a young man of 11 years, I mean, 10 years, and he is analyzing the situation and saying, some years back, he was 4 years. He remembers it so vividly how he was doing the dancing against racism. And today he saw his image again and was thinking, man, how come that we are still talking about it? So in the eye of a young person, he thinks this thing should have long finished, right? And then
Mm,
I asked him, now, Ellis, what would you do if you had all the powers on this earth and you would change one thing? And he said, I would just take a microphone and then put an end and say, stop as from today, this, and that was concerning racism. And I was like, wow, these are young people. We need to hear from them. And unfortunately, many adults that have been, I'm sorry, Malcolm X would say, the house slave will think that they are better than the field slave. And so they're going to be mixing up a lot of things.
mhm,
And so
mhm,
we have to be careful that we don't become like the house slaves and think that we are the house slave may unconsciously even defend his master, or consciously, because he thinks or she thinks he is now the master. Now, that's another conversation for another day. Let's dive
mhm,
into business trade.
mhm, mhm.
Florian, tell us more about business. What kind of business do you do? What is business, and what kind of business do you do?
Again, as I say, I'm an entrepreneur, basically in the crypto business. So cryptocurrency, this is a new field with blockchain technology, and this is what I love doing in the marketing field, in the product management field, um, and I'm also an investor, so in the real estate and other stuff. So those are my where my passion lies. Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. I know you are in real estate, you are in cryptocurrency, and you do a lot of different business. You're an investor. My question would be now, how did you overcome this structural racism that has been put in place to block the economic power, your economic power? How were you able to overcome that? Or do you think racism doesn't play a role for you as an entrepreneur?
Oh, this is a very good question, because you have two aspects of it. The first aspect is that it's really really easy to play the race card and say, okay, because of racism, I'm not gonna do certain things. You need to get away from the race card. You need to acknowledge that racism is there, but not find an excuse not to thrive. Okay, this is number one, because if you just think about racism, you will never start doing something. Okay, because sometimes it's really, really, really difficult to even make the difference between the conflict of interest and racism. So somebody can say to you no just because you are different, but at the same time, he or she can say to you no because he or she doesn't like your product, isn't it? So you have to make sure you deliver on what you should be doing. So doing your homework, and then let the other side decide how to deal with the things. So because at the end of the day, racism is a complex. So first of all, make sure you deliver on what you should be doing. And then if the other side doesn't like you because you are different, this is not something you will change overnight. But first of all, make sure you deliver. This is the first thing I would say to people into business. Make sure that what you do it good.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Make sure what you do it good. That's an amazing and powerful one. My colleague and friend Batimona Becker would say racism is traumatizing. And if it is traumatizing, and if you have been traumatized the first time, I'll take a simple example. I think I shared this with you yesterday too. Many a times I've been knocked really hard, and I knew it's about racism, and I had to go back to relax, to rest first, get
Mhm.
back my strength before I come back again to the field. And then, of course, coming back more stronger because you've empowered yourself with good people around, with people who can understand you. And so you understand the importance of real networking with the right kinds of people. Now,
Mhm.
do you think, um, apart from the fact that some people may use, you said, playing the race card, which I don't think it is really so necessary, how can racism affect people of color to strive in business?
Racism has been affecting people of color a lot. You can see that, for instance, I've seen cases where you put together a project and you do the presentation of the project, and they just say no on when they on a white dominant or even a black dominant audiences. So you just need to change the name, and when they see another person coming up and presenting the project, because he looks different, he's white, they say yes. So you see those cases, and so now the question is, though, what do you do against that as a person, as a so-called, they said, minority person? But how do you deal with it? How do you tackle it? The first thing is first to be good in what you're doing. And the second thing is to call it out when you see it. Don't be quiet. Don't back down. Call it out when you see it. And when you've done so, and it's exactly what you're doing right now, talk about it, openly about it, and engage yourself in politics, because all the things, as we said, this is structural, systemic things embedded even in the politics. And we need, as a people of so-called color, work very hard in community to make the community be strong, because at the end of the days, unless we shift the power in terms of community building, in terms of changing the fundamental belief that you are different and you are inferior in some cases, we won't change racism as it is, because racism is a feeling of superiority from one group to another. So the other group, we still have long term to change. You don't have this is the reason why personally I think when we say Black Lives Matter, that, I mean, how should somebody even say a human being matter? We should be matter, isn't it? I mean, we are all human being, and having to shout to matter is not the point of life, isn't it? And this has everything to do with the balance of power. Unless the other side, other people shift the power balance in terms of community building, that will be very, very tough to change the fundamental belief that, okay, you are less than me because I have more power than you in many aspects. And this is why I believe racism will begin to shift significantly the days where people victim of racism, most of them black and brown people, will start thrive in terms of community, not individual, but in terms of community. When Africa will start develop itself, when Africa will start having powerful countries, powerful institutions, then we will see, for instance, people coming out and say that really, 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 we are so sorry and we are ready to pay back because of slavery, and because we have slavery, but the restitution hasn't been there. There has been restitution for the Jewish people, but not for the black people already, isn't it? And those are the things. The day Africa will start to thrive, being powerful, having a strong voice on the international field, you will begin to see people having more respect, people speaking out, and people tackle racism really the way it should be, not the way people are just talking right now and doing nothing.
Not the way people are talking right now and doing nothing. Amazing. I like what you said about community building, because the danger of one person succeeding is having one story being told, and we need to tell more of the stories. So a community has to successfully community collectively grow, so that they be that economic power. And I observe also that we are not yet at that level that we understand the power of collectivity, that we have to grow collectively, that if we have to succeed, then we should all succeed, so that the community, so that the power, so that the economic will be also seen in our environment. And of course, most especially, so that we can regain back the power and respect as a collective group, because your success alone doesn't still make the difference, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you can see this is. I used to talk to my good friend in the U.S. that, unless, for instance, because at the end of the days, um, we have to, when talking about black and brown people, most of them are from Africa, and unless we see a significant shift of power. I mean, when I'm talking about power, I'm talking about economical power, military power, all power in all aspect. That would be very, very difficult, because racism is all about an idea that a race is somehow superior to other. So you will have a hard time imposing yourself as somebody or a group of people to be respected and to be treated equally. Because, I just take an example. When somebody make a deal with you and see how he can just get 90% of the deal and you get 10%, but you still sign the deal, tell me, how should he respect you really? In the deep down, he is saying to himself, this guy is not that intelligent. You understand what I'm saying?
It's like we are accepting to deal with anyhow.
Exactly. This is how.
Anyhow we can go about that, we can just
Exactly. This
accept.
is about balance of power. And when you look at Africa and you look at the political field, and when you see yourself, what kind of contract are they signing and how they deal with their own people, how they deal with their own country, how they move and do them and do to themselves, it's hard for them to get respected. And this is also what racism is all about. It's about looking at somebody and saying, I have in front of me a respected human being. I have to be careful the way I'm talking to him, the way I'm dealing with him, because he's as smart as I am. But if you sign a contract with me and I'm sure I have 90% of what you've been signing for your own will, when I get back home, I have to talk to my children and say, this guy is not that intelligent, because what he just did is just stupid. I mean, what I'm saying is deep and political, but this is the way it is. We have to say it the way it is.
Amazing, amazing. This is again taking us to business, and we are combining business. For those who are just joining us, you're welcome to our conversation today. Today, we are having the conversation of today's Sundays. Remember, it's a business conversation, but today is the 21st of March 2021, and on this day, 2060 years, 55 years ago, we had 69 people who were murdered because they went out to demonstrate against racism. And that day was now declared as a day against racism. And later on, it became a week against racism. So because it felt on this particular day, we are having this conversation between how the effect of racism, and of course in business, how racism can affect businesses, and especially also businesses of Black people or businesses of people of color or people, whatever. But that the structures that have been put in place, the institutions, the policies, the machineries that has been put in place could really be detrimental for business growth. And of course, Florian is also a business person, an entrepreneur. He deals also with cryptocurrency, real estate, and he is also mentioning the fact that we need to have a collective success, and it meaning that if we are just you and me successful, it's not enough to gain back the authority of um, of uh, of respect that we want for the Black or the people of color. We need a collective success. Now, this is now going again deep into business, Florian. How do we develop the mindset of collective success?
Oh yeah, this is obviously this is a very very good question, a critical one. How do we develop the mindset of collective business? First of all, we have to be a community. What is being a community? What does that mean? A study has shown that when you take, for instance, people from Asia descent. So if you take Asia people, you see that the money goes around in their own community a number of times before going out. It's like 80% or 87%. You see, when you take, for instance, the people of India, you're going to see that the money goes around in their community a number of times, or people of South America. But Black people overall, they tend to spend their money out of their community. And this is not good. I mean, this alone won't be sufficient, because the first thing is education. We need to educate our people, invest a lot of money in education. This is number one. The number two, we need to get away from the thinking that working.
I have to stop here first,
Yeah, go ahead.
Florian, because
Mhm,
it's so important what you said,
mhm,
education. But
mhm,
Florian, are we
mhm.
not educated enough? What kind of education you're talking about? Because
Ah,
I know lot of educated people who still
mhm,
do not grasp. I don't understand when you
mhm.
talk about education. What kind of education are you talking about? Just to chip in there.
Yes, we need to understand where we came from, because I think this is so important to understand, um, that a community has more power than the individual, and this is where we tend we've always failed to understand. So you see, for instance, many society in Africa, from the individual aspect, they are good, but from the community, when they put them together, they won't able to work together. Unless you are able to work together and build something strong, you won't be able to face big challenges. Yeah, this is the bottom line. But this is not something that we haven't tried, because when you look back, our good people have been slaughtered. Okay, our good people, our leaders, the people who were there to bring us together, those are the political tactics to just eliminate all those good people, to get to get into our this to exploit our society. So, but we need to get back to that. Working as a community, we need to appreciate each other. This is not something I see in our community. When you see somebody doing something good, you should be able to give him hand, to support him, to appreciate, to contribute. And those are the things. So thinking about community building, this is number one. And that come after education. But still, I believe that education is not sufficient in our society, because we need to educate the mass. We have good people here and there, but as a community, as a mass, as a don't forget that the colonial master came in and divide us long term, and this division has its own effect until today. So when you see, for instance, one country speaking English, the other country just next door speaking French, and this community are divided, same family divided across borders. Those was a political tactic to divide us long term and to control. But before that, we need to reunite ourselves. This is the reason why I really believe that the United States of Africa is something we should do right now. We don't need to wait. We should start right now to reunite. Unless Africa get reunite, that would be so difficult to break this barrier and start a really, really powerful Africa.
Mhm. Thank you
Yes.
so much. That's a very powerful one. That takes me also to our conversation for tomorrow morning, tomorrow evening. Every Mondays, we have the conversation with the Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want. And it's also one of these dreams that we should unite the African. And we have started it already by having the open free market, the space to market.
Mhm.
Africa alone is a big market now for everyone who wants to venture into business. This is the time now to really venture because there is an open market to really contain real businesses, inter trade, between amongst African countries. That's what has not been happening in the past, and now there is that possibility. And there's also the working on the African passport, which are also already things that are bringing us closer to that oneness and bringing us
Yeah.
closer to that
Mhm.
community building. So we are getting there in as much as there have been very powerful structures that has been placed to hinder this progress, but we are getting there. Ghana, the president of Ghana, the other day mentioned stop their business relationship with Switzerland on
Yes, I've
cocoa
heard
and
that.
coffee. So these are really good things that are coming up, and I'm very sure that we are getting there. And therefore, yes, community building is a powerful tool. And you also mentioned the fact that education, but education in the aspect of really getting to know one's identity, getting to know, understand the history, and of course, working on our skills day after day. Thank you very much, Francois. Florian, I think this is a very important conversation today, that we understand that yes, in as much as racism is a divide and rule instrument created by the white people, white institutions, white systems, so as to break down and destroy other race and other people, we are also able and well able, now that we understand the system, now that we understand the trick, that it is time for us now to understand that one success, it doesn't make a difference. That we, if one person succeed, either we all succeed or we are all in the same boat
Yeah.
again.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it means it is calling for us, ladies and gentlemen. You is here and you're listening to us. We have a high challenge before us, a very big challenge, and the challenge is really learning to put yourself down and understanding that it is a collective success that makes the difference. And the question is, how do we get this collective success? That takes me to the next important question, Florian. You understand by now that I love networking, and that networking is one of my strongest instruments that I
Mhm.
use in every area. And I think that networking, it is true that your network is your net worth. And
That's
I think I have come this far because I made myself a self covenant to always network and to make use of networking, make use of um, getting together with people. I I will have to take the example of an organization that I'm working with also very closely, the Pamoja Africa. We work very closely together, and we are both social workers and really doing similar works. And we just get up to the realization that, wait a minute, why do we have to write all the time two different concepts when we are doing the same work? We
mhm.
can write one concept and use it
Yeah.
for both organizations. And I tell you, when you see us, you think that, in fact, we talk every day. because we get to understand, we get to know, we have understood how important it is to synchronize the energy, the strength, the force. And when people say, Vera, you're doing a lot, I'm like, oh no, it's because I have lots of people behind the work, not me doing this job, because I can't do this job alone. Of course, as a leader of the organization, you're in front to back it up, but there are people behind. The networkers are there. And because I long time understood that if we have to succeed, it must be a collective success. And then
Mm,
you are saying that to achieve that collective success, we must have to re-educate ourselves.
mhm.
Thank
Yes,
you
yes.
very much. hmm So now let's go now. And you also mentioned the fact that we have to also let money circulate in the community. I think that's another thing that we have to really deal with that seriously. How do we make money? Can you give us vivid examples amongst in the community? Let's talk about Germany. We're in Germany now, and we let's talk about Black people's business. How
Mhm.
do we make money circulate in the community?
Yes. Simple as that. Meaning what? If I want to do something, if I'm looking for a lawyer, I will first consider a lawyer that understand my background. Simple as that. If I'm looking for somebody doing in the real estate, I will simply look for somebody who understand where I come from and can simply understand my feeling and what I want, my need and my want. If I want to invest in some kind of business, let's say I want to buy food. I will go. I feel so unfortunate that even people from other country are selling our own food in Europe,
Mm,
and this is hard to believe, but this is the truth. And this is why, because most of our business go bankrupt because we don't respect our own people doing that business. We come and take things and we don't pay right away just because this has got to change. If we want to get out of that, we need to give value to our own people and our own business. And this is so critical. This is so critical. And unless we do that, we still gonna be down. This is no way out. And this
Oh,
is this is what
Flora,
I
you,
see.
you
Yeah. Mm.
you've hit the point that just went into my muzzle.
All
You,
right.
you mentioned the fact that taking things for credit. Please explain this again in very simple terms and make examples that we should really understand. How, why is it that when when our people come to buy from another fellow black or fellow person of color, he or she usually have the tendency to want to take for credit.
Let me break this down for you. Let me explain you something. This goes back to racism itself. You know that when racism happened in some places, you see even the first thing what racism does is to take away the respect we have within the same community. So saying that mean what? Um, you see even a black people, even a black person doesn't take into high consideration what his counterpart is doing. He is he will go to somebody else and pay the price, but when it comes to another black person, he won't pay the same price because you are on the value in subconscious. This is what racism does. And this is the reason we need to change first, because this is deep down in our subconscious, that we can go and lend something to a black person, but to other races or to a white man, we are ready to pay double the same price. And that means what? We need to appreciate what our people are doing. You need to be taken in your real value among your own community. This is number one. Unless we respect ourselves, nobody will respect us. Nobody. We can forget. And this is what I'm talking about: education and education. Okay.
This is so powerful, Florian. This is so powerful. And Batimona Becker is saying that asking for credit or negotiating to last price or is this like disrespecting our businesses. And
Yeah.
nobody goes to negotiate at Kaufland or no
Mhm.
or
But Louis
DM. Nobody
Vuitton,
goes
Louis
there.
Vuitton, you see, I mean, look, this is real, this is quite something. You see, we are ready, this is the, do you, I mean, first of all, see, if we need, if if you come out with a brand, okay, how the value your brand gonna have on the world scale will depend of how people see, first of all, the quality you are delivering, and how people, your community see that. So it's important to value our own things. Unless we value that, it's going to be hard.
Whew. And that's where we have a big challenge. I would say that price should not be a problem because we don't sell by giving the price, but by value, we're adding value to people. But I'm going to come back to that because since we're having a conversation on business, Florian, you said something that racism is deep down in our subconsciousness, and it makes so much so that we have disrespect even for our own selves, for our own fellow people like you and me, that we do not take into consideration. And that reminded me of some time ago. And I want to tell this story because I think that is also part of the conversation. Um, some time ago, a lady came to me. She was seriously sick and she was supposed to be admitted in a hospital. And we offer what we call the house help. So house hearts heal for it's house help. So when you're in the hospital, you're sick, and when you have children, you can get your insurance can cover that up. So this lady called us, and of course, because we are people too, we understand. We work also very low but professional. So immediately, I organized for employee to go there to be with the children. Because if not, it was going to be very dangerous for the children to be alone, and there was no institution, other institution, who could be so flexible like us. So we organized, we sent people there, everything. I sent someone there, everything was well taking place. The children were very happy with our employee. They could take care, go visit even the mother, everything. When this lady, and I decided not to pressure her because normally when you are offered the service, that you take the card, everything, and do the registration so that everything is well done and processed so that you can send to the insurance for your money back. But I said no, I didn't want to put her into pressure. So I let her be. And then when she came out of the hospital, then I asked her for the information that I needed so that I can be able to process back my money, not from her, please, from the insurance. And of course, we had to continue the work because she still needed help. Can you remember? Can you know what? Can you imagine the answer she gave to me? She said to me, Vera, no, I'm sorry. I really want white people to come and work for me because I'm not too sure that don't laugh now, Florian. You're making me to want to laugh. I don't want to laugh with this one. This is a very serious one. And she said, because I don't trust that black people can do the work well. Florian, don't forget, it was a black person that was in her house the whole of the weekend, slept there to take care, prepare food for the children, accompany the children to school until she left the hospital. And then at the time, she's not the one to pay for our services. At the time, we are supposed to write down that hey, now it's time. The first thing she's saying, I want a white person because I'm not too sure of the quality of the black person's work. And I looked at her and asked, during these 5 days or 4 days, it was a black person who was in your house doing an amazing job, taking care of your children. Now it is time that you have to sign the paper so that we get our payment, not from you, from our partner who also knows that we are supposed to work here. And you're telling us your story about white and black. So I just wanted
Yeah.
to confirm to you, Florian,
Mhm.
that indeed it is a grasp of disrespect,
Yeah,
a
yeah. But
lack of appreciation.
don't blame that on her because she need to heal first. I mean, look, to get to the point where you begin to act when you've been slave, you've been beaten down for hundreds of years,
Mm,
and I was in the US and I used to witness that myself, visiting the deep down black African community, I mean black American community. So
mm.
when people have been beaten down for years, and they behave like crabs. You know, crabs. When you put crabs in the basket, everybody want to get out. Just nobody will get out at the end of the days. But yeah, this is just the bottom line. we Unless we heal and unless we have a serious conversation, and this begin with education, talking about that. It's not taboo, and teaching people. People need teachings. They need to listen. They need to trust education. You need to tell to your kids, because what they're witnessing in the school everywhere is the same thing. You need to call them, you are a champion, you are good, you are better. You need to tell them that until they get into the subconscious. Then you're going to begin acting that ways. Unless you get there, that will be hard.
Oh my God. Unless we get there, it's really going to be a tough one. But we are working towards that because we understand that, of course, we have to win only together. No winning one person. If we have to make the change, then the change is a together change
Yeah.
because the story of one person doesn't make any much
Yeah, it's a
difference.
facade. It's a facade. It's a
It's
facade. So
really a facade.
it's a
Mm,
facade. We need to work
mm,
as a community unless we get there. And this is the reason why the question is, um, the slave master, as per se, won't
mm,
let you work in community because
mhm,
they know, people who set this system up, they know that the day you begin to work in community is over, and they won't let you do that. And this is the reason. Yeah, this is a balance of power, and this is a
that is
fight.
true. That is
Yes,
true.
and this is something we need to understand. This is the reason why when you talk about racism, yeah, they can let you, but when you begin to gather people, they're gonna fight you.
Hmm. Hmm. And exactly that's where we have to gather our people, make them understand their value, make them
Mhm.
understand that we only have to win as a team, a
As a
collective
team.
force. And that's why I really appreciate that's who said that. I think I said that, and Francois also confirmed. I really appreciate all the people, the amazing teams with that I work with, the partners that I work with, and that we work with. We say that in German, Augenhöhe. Like we are working knowing that we are valuing one another,
Yeah.
respecting one another. And it
Hmm.
takes grace to meet the kind of people that you will meet and that you respect and love and care and know that if he falls, if she falls, you are falling. So for this
Yeah.
reason, you have to hold hands together, and it
Hmm.
needs a same kind of mindset. And I think it needs also spiritual backing up so that
Hmm.
when you're working so hard together, that the I call them the witches of the air, the witches of the land, the witches of the sea, that they are all the spirits that are around to just see to pull down should not be able to penetrate. Francois Chukwemeka, you're welcome to our conversation. And he says, I think that is the education Florian was talking about. Give values to what your community does, and the
Yeah.
others will follow us. That is true.
Good
Thank
point,
you.
Francois. I would say this, Vera, to my closing statement, because we still just have 5 minutes left. I want to say to our audiences, ladies and gentlemen, no, I mean, wherever you see a black man or a black people thrive, support him, love what he's doing, support, appreciate. You know, this begins from there. We are not all same talented. You have your talent, I have my talent. He has it. I mean, we should come together with diverse talent, and bring something good out of it. Wherever you see a person from Africa thrive, support him, love what he's doing, and this is so important in business field, in networking field, everywhere. Support the community. Don't, I mean, unless we begin to do that, so we all gonna stick in the basket, in the crap basket.
Thank you so very much, Florian. That was a powerful closing statement. I do not want to add anything much to that, except you have something. And I like the crab story because we use that a lot also to always empower ourselves and say, hey, you have to be very careful to be like the crab so that, and it's so amazing. I mean, this thing about the crab is so terrible, right? The crab, you get out there, he instead to find their own space to climb up, they want to come again beside to pull you down. And one if one person comes, it's okay. But now one person comes, then the other crab just come and hang again on the other one. This is so terrible. I mean, I hope that we are going to live here not having that mindset of the crab, but really having the mindset of queens and kings. Florian, do you have a last word before we go?
Vera, I want to say thank you for what you're doing for the community. I mean, don't forget, people are watching all over the world, even now. If people are not there, they're going to be watching. Our children are watching, our girls. So this is, I still believe, this is my personal view. You are on the value, because we need to give more value for what you are doing. And I strongly believe that what you are doing goes until the end of the earth to change somebody's life in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Florian. It's a reciprocal respect, and I appreciate what you're doing as well. We're coming to the end of the program, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to appreciate you, Emily Jerry, who says, "Good job, Vera Sompon. I admire you. I love your work and confidence, ma'am. I appreciate you wherever you are. Thank you for being my guest today, and make sure you share the link and invite other people also to join the Sompon family. We are a family. We are because you are. We've come to the end of this controversial conversation. Racism and of course business, they don't work hand in hand. But we know that one thing for sure, we don't want to be the crab. So if you don't want to be the crab in that basket, then make sure you support our sister's business, a brother's business, so that money circulates in the community, and only then can we get the respect. Remember, it's all about a collective success and not an individual success. If it was for individual success, then it would not be a problem. But for us to gain back the authority and the power, then we must have a collective success. Join a brother, join a sister, doing something together, supporting one another consciously with the intention that it's about the community and not about you. We've come to the end of our program today, and tomorrow, please tune in again for another conversation on the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. You don't want to miss that conversation. And of course, on Tuesday, we're having also the Social Workers Forum with Batimona Abeke. And on Thursday, again, we are going to be having a political conversation with Mr. Abeke, the president of Business 14. And on Sunday, again, we're going to be having a business conversation with Francois Chukwu Emeka, who will be telling us how to start from nothing to something. Until then, take good care of yourself. Bye bye.